For the first time, the images from above. What police rescue team pilots saw from helicopters hovering over the Twin Towers in those first minutes.
Immediately check the roof.
Could people have been saved from the rooftop? What are police around the country learning from these pictures?
The horror of September 11th from above. Video shot from a police rescue helicopter, given exclusively by the NYPD to primetime.
If you could plan, I mean, the absolute worst case scenario high-rise mission, I mean, you had it on 9/11. There were numerous secondary explosions taking place in that building. There were continuous explosions.
We're looking at probably 15 to 20 stories burning simultaneously at probably well over 1,000 degrees, if not more.
Lieutenant Glenn Daly and Officer Timothy Hayes are pilots for the NYPD Aviation Unit. Just minutes after the blast, Hayes is in the first helicopter over the scene.
Immediately, the high-rise rescue plan was going into effect. The smoke had covered 90% of the entire roof, so I couldn't even see the roof to make an evaluation of where we could go.
But Hayes hopes he can find a way, some way, to manage a daring rescue. From the ground, it seems an aerial rescue could work. After all, our memories are etched with scenes of heroism in the air, rescue helicopters swooping in, effortlessly it seemed, saving lives. A rooftop evacuation from a fire consuming the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas. A worker trapped atop a crane in Atlanta, plucked from the sky. And in Los Angeles, as an office building was in flames, 8 people with nowhere else to go were flown to safety. Chief Paul Shakestad of the LA Fire Department's aviation unit was there.
Our helicopters put teams on the roof that can go in through the top, the uninvolved portion of the building, and do search and rescue or some limited firefighting.
Shakestad's unit took primetime along for a training run. They use hoists to lower specially trained firefighters down to rooftops and harnesses to bring victims back up. But Shakestad and other fire experts warn roof rescue isn't the best option.
So the priority is still to go down.
Vince Dunn, a former deputy chief in the New York Fire Department, told us if you're in a burning high-rise office building, going to the roof is one of the worst things you can do.
We want people to get below the fire. Our strategy is to bring people down below the fire. If you're 1 floor below the fire, you're safe. The most dangerous place you can be is above a fire, in a stairway or in a hallway. Heat, smoke, and flame rise.
Now, why is it wrong to think, hey, if there's a fire like the World Trade Center and there are all these people trying to get down, I'll just go to the roof. That's the safest place.
It's not easy to get up to a roof of a building. Many stairways do not go to the roof, and you may get trapped in that stairway that dead ends.
That's why the fire evacuation plans for the World Trade Center never included a rooftop escape. True, after the 1993 basement garage bombing, a small number of people who were unable to negotiate the staircases were rescued from the roof. But on the worst September morning in history, everything was different.
There are high-rise fires, and then there are 9/11. A typical high-rise fire creates a lot of heat and creates a lot of smoke. Add to that scenario hundreds of thousands of pounds of jet fuel as an accelerant to the fire. Multiply the heat factor. Something that helicopters don't like is heat. So now you've got the worst of all possible situations playing themselves out.
One of the first calls I got was from people on the ground calling us to immediately check the roof. I said there was a corner from where the wind was blowing from that was partially open, but it was still covered in smoke, and there was numerous obstructions. I said, Pat, this is impossible. This is undoable. I can't see the roof.
Yet still, one police chopper tries repeatedly to get into position to land or drop someone in, but it can't.
To give you an idea of what it was like to fly above the World Trade Center, they were at 1,700 feet. Even on normal days, you had swirling wind conditions and thermal wind currents, which made it very difficult to navigate.
People may have in their mind's eye a view of this pristine roof, salvation. Those roofs were totally compromised and choked with thick, acrid black smoke, intense heat coming up from the fire.
Hayes and his crew circle the towers, desperate for an opportunity, unaware they're in grave danger just being in the air.
I caught out of my eye an airplane, and I turned to Pat, my pilot, and I said, Pat, Jesus Christ, I said, there's a second plane crashing. And then as I turned back to the left again, I realized how close it was coming to us. I started to yell at Pat to climb, because I felt it was going to impact our aircraft. So we climbed. He went underneath us, and next thing I knew, I watched it impact the South Tower.
But Hayes says the most wrenching feeling for him is knowing people are trapped, people he can't reach.
You could look in the windows, you could see people.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to remember that, but yeah, you can see people, yes.
And that's got to make it more difficult when you have to decide not to go in.
Yeah, thinking as a cop, you know, maybe I would have ran into that burning building knowing that I'm never going to come out. But as an aviator, you're responsible now for 6 people on board that aircraft. I can't make the decision for 6 other lives and 6 other families.
Because if there's any way you could have, when you were looking at those people, you would have done it. Is that true?
We would have tried. But if me trying to help people is going to kill more people on board my helicopter, if that helicopter, God forbid, falls to the ground, you have to say, we have to weigh the options and say, you know what, this isn't going to work. We're going to cause more problems than good right now.
Was there ever a moment that either of you or anyone else that you know of questioned whether or not the right call was made to land on that roof?
Never. Never.
When you were flying around the World Trade Center that morning, did you ever see people on the roof?
No. Never. We looked. The South Tower was totally obscured. We couldn't see the roof at all. The North Tower, there was nobody on the roof.
And why didn't anyone make it to that roof? The only staircase leading there may have been destroyed, filled with smoke or fire. Maybe they couldn't open the door that led to the roof, a door that was usually locked to protect vital communications equipment. But there were people working in close proximity who had keys. And the Port Authority says there's no evidence that anyone was even close to that door. We may never know for sure, but what we do know is that despite the most effective evacuation effort in anyone's recent memory, 20,000 people were saved. There were those who were trapped, above the fire and out of reach of the helicopters. As a human being, what's the impact on you when you first noticed exactly how devastating it was?
It was, I never felt so helpless and guilty before in my life. And when we get there with these millions of dollars of equipment, and there was absolutely nothing we could do, because it was nothing, we couldn't get to that roof. We couldn't get people out of that building. So it was one of the worst feelings I felt, you know, I've ever felt.
It's gone! The whole tower!
And then, the final shot for the pilots.
Another one's gonna go!
So close, and yet, as the towers came down, despite all their training, all their courage, all they could do was watch in stunned disbelief.
Be about the whole North Tower is down.